and all the comorbidities of that disease. And yet, we haven't had acceptance in our own country that obesity is a disease. Now, let's look at open heart surgery. My institution, where I come from, University of Minnesota, one of the leaders in open heart surgery, and it was introduced 1952-53, and as you heard, Dr. Roberts was a cardiovascular surgeon, head of the division at Boston University. It was accepted in 5 years. Everybody referred people for open heart surgery. It was an accepted discipline in medicine. Today, there are about 700,000 cases done annually, which means about 100% of the need. Transplantation surgery. 1954, Joe Murray transplanted the first kidney between twins, won the Nobel Prize. Acceptance again within a whole 2 or 3 years, certainly under 5 years. 30,000 annually done in the United States, out of 120 on the waiting list, so 25% meeting the need. Bariatric surgery, it was started at my institution in 1953 by Richard Varco with the jejunal ileal bypass. Ed Mason, who started the gastric bypass in Iowa, came from Minnesota, and it's not been accepted. Look, it goes back well over 50 years. There are 200,000 cases annually done of 78 million with a BMI over 35, and we're meeting 0.25% or 1% of the needy people receiving an organ transplant. So why have we not been accepted as a discipline? Well, one main reason is prejudice. We have prejudice in our own ranks. When I first started doing bariatric surgery, my chairman said I'm doing psychiatry with a knife. We have internists who don't believe in obesity being a disease. And we have people in all the medical specialties who really don't treat obesity. They tell the patient, go on a diet, do some exercise. The insurance companies have never been our friends. From the very beginning, they made us take extraordinary preoperative investigations, psychiatric exam. Why not a psychiatric exam for colon cancer? That's a disease. The government has not been friendly. The general population looks down on obesity, and unfortunately our patients themselves often hate themselves and look down upon themselves as having some character defect. The second reason is cost. About 30% of our population now is obese, or find it more exactly as a BMI over 35. And it's going to 50% of the adult population if the current trend is not stopped. That being so, we as a nation certainly cannot afford to operate on everybody. And bariatric surgery is not the answer to the treatment of obesity. So what do we do to mitigate against prejudice? We have statements by reported authorities, and I'll give some of those. And we have education. Education is led by institutions such as TOS, ASMBS, and the group we represent, the Living Heart Foundation, Heart Obesity Prevention Education Program, that you're going to hear more about from Dr. Roberts. What's the mitigation against the cost of the argument cost? It costs too much. Well, obesity, most of the obesity comorbidities, like type 2 diabetes, are metabolic diseases. We have the metabolic syndrome. Bariatric surgery is metabolic surgery. And laboratory and human investigation of the metabolism of obesity and the metabolism of the comorbidities will elucidate knowledge of causation and cause. We have a human laboratory out there in the hundreds and thousands of patients who have been treated by bariatric surgery, have had remarkable changes in their hormones, GLP-1, etc., in their vagus stimulation. We have to learn what all this means, and thereby we'll be able to come back and do intelligent therapy that is not surgical, and save the surgical therapy for recalcitrant obesity, or in some cases as a synergistic approach with lifestyle changes and pharmaceuticals. Landmarks, good and bad. As early as 1977, the World Health Organization said obesity is a disease. It was not until 2004, but believe it or not, Medicare acknowledged obesity as a disease. TOS felt it was obligated to make an obvious statement about its existence and said obesity is a disease in 2008. And in 2010, Obamacare put a tremendous dent in what we were trying to do. 28 states opted out of paying for bariatric surgery because it was never listed as a mandated procedure. And only in 2013, a short time ago, did the AMA say obesity should be considered a chronic medical disease state. So, our program, the LHF HOPE program, the history is the Living Heart Foundation started by